The grand crystal court sparkled under the soft light of the twin suns, its walls made of translucent crystal that seemed to hum with a quiet energy. Dignitaries from dozens of star systems had traveled long distances to attend the peace treaty ceremony of the Srafel Dominion. Their flowing robes of many colors created a vibrant patchwork as they moved across the polished floor, murmuring greetings in hundreds of alien languages. At the center of the hall, Princess Illyra stood on a raised platform, her presence commanding yet serene. She was young, with silver hair that shimmered under the sunlight and eyes the color of deep amethyst, reflecting intelligence and grace in every glance. For centuries, the Srafel had maintained order and influence across the neighboring star systems, and today was to be a historic occasion. The peace treaty promised cooperation in trade, exploration, and defense, binding allies across distant galaxies. Among the assembly was a small group of humans, Earth's diplomatic contingent, tasked with observing the proceedings and ensuring security in this unfamiliar alien environment. Their presence was unusual. Humans had not yet made many high-level alliances in this region of space, but their reputation as problem solvers and brave negotiators earned them cautious respect. Marcus Hale, the human assigned to security, had spent years training for this moment. He stood near the entrance, observing the crowd with sharp eyes. Humans were not naturally attuned to the subtle energy flows of the Srafel, but Marcus had learned to notice patterns that others missed. The soft pulse of the court's energy lattice, the faint hum of the crystal walls, even the barely perceptible flickers of the sun's reflection on the floor. All of it registered in his mind as part of the environment he needed to protect. His hand rested lightly on the strap of his security communicator, ready to act if needed. As the ceremony began, a hush fell over the assembly. The High Chancellor of the Srafel Dominion stepped forward, his tall, elegant figure casting a long shadow across the platform. His voice was smooth and measured as he welcomed the representatives of allied systems. The words were formal, precise, but there was warmth in his tone, and the crowd responded with polite applause. Princess Illyra stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. "We gather not only to sign a document," she said, "but to embrace a future where cooperation replaces conflict. Let this treaty be the first of many steps toward unity among our worlds." Her words were met with applause, though it was subdued, as most attendees focused on the sheer elegance of her presence. Rather than the content of her speech, Marcus noted a subtle shift in the air. The energy lattice embedded in the crystal walls pulsed slightly faster, almost imperceptibly. He frowned, sensing something unusual. He glanced at Princess Illyra. She was standing perfectly still, hands folded lightly in front of her. Yet he noticed the faintest shimmer in the air around her. A chill ran down his spine, a human instinct warning him that something was not right. And then, without warning, it happened. Princess Illyra's knees buckled. Her body sagged like a marionette with cut strings. Gasps rippled through the court as she collapsed to the platform floor. Courtiers rushed forward, but Marcus was faster. He darted through the crowd, moving past wide-eyed aliens who hesitated, unsure how to react. Kneeling beside the princess, he assessed her quickly. Her breathing was shallow, but steady. Her pulse, while faint, was present. There was no visible injury, no sign of attack, no evidence of poisoning. The court's medics arrived moments later, hovering nervously over the princess. Their instruments, sleek devices that could scan for biological and energy anomalies, showed nothing. Illyra's vital signs were within normal limits. Confusion rippled through the Srafel, many of whom had never seen their air falter in any way. Marcus's mind raced. Humans had a reputation for noticing details that others overlooked, and this was one of those moments. He focused on the shimmer he had seen moments before, the faint distortion around the princess. "It's not physical," he muttered under his breath, mostly to himself. Then he adjusted his sensors, tuning them to detect faint energy fluctuations, something humans could interpret from subtle electromagnetic and kinetic signals. A soft vibration under his palm confirmed his suspicion. There was a small, invisible pulse like a ripple across a pond that seemed to originate from somewhere within the crystal lattice of the court itself. It was weak, almost imperceptible, yet strong enough to affect sensitive physiology. Humans were less attuned to these energy fields, which might explain why he was the first to notice. He signaled the head medic, who nodded, understanding that Marcus was not acting out of panic but insight. Together, they gently moved the princess onto a specially prepared platform for stabilization. Marcus continued scanning the area, noting subtle fluctuations in the energy lattice. Something about the pattern seemed deliberate, almost like a message or a warning, but he could not yet tell which. Meanwhile, whispers began to spread through the court. Some diplomats speculated it was an assassination attempt, while others thought it might be a sudden illness. Marcus could see fear flicker in the eyes of the Srafel attendants. Panic, if left unchecked, could turn a delicate political ceremony into chaos. He straightened, projecting calm authority. "Everyone stay back," he said in a firm, clear voice. "She is stable. We are investigating." A few brave aides helped maintain order, though many observers simply froze in shock. Marcus moved closer to the lattice wall, using his portable scanner to trace the energy pulse. It was subtle, but unmistakable, an oscillation pattern that no normal Srafel device would generate. He crouched low, adjusting the sensors, following the trail of faint signals. The pulse led him to a small, rarely used chamber at the far side of the court. It was locked behind a crystal barrier that usually served as a decorative partition. But Marcus could sense that something hidden was behind it. He tapped a small override on his security badge, a human-designed protocol that allowed him access in emergencies. The barrier slid open with a soft hum. Inside was a storage area filled with ancient artifacts and old Srafel equipment. Most of it appeared decorative, but one device caught Marcus's attention, a small, cube-shaped object pulsating faintly, almost in sync with the shimmer that had surrounded the princess. He crouched and carefully scanned the cube. Its energy signature was unusual, unlike any current technology in the Srafel Dominion or human records. The pulse it emitted was rhythmic, subtle, but capable of influencing neural patterns in sensitive species. Marcus realized what might have happened. This cube, buried and forgotten for centuries, had somehow activated and emitted a resonance that temporarily affected the princess. He carefully picked up the cube, examining its construction. "Interesting," he muttered. Even in the midst of crisis, human curiosity demanded analysis. The cube was elegant and ancient, yet it contained a technology that humans could begin to understand. Perhaps, Marcus thought, this was not a threat, but a relic, one that had the potential to disrupt the Srafel if left unchecked. Back in the main hall, the princess stirred slightly. Her eyes fluttered open, and relief rippled through the court. Marcus gently placed the cube in a containment field, ensuring its energy could not affect anyone else. Alira's gaze met his, and she gave a small, grateful nod. In that moment, Marcus knew he had prevented more than just an embarrassment. He had preserved the fragile order of the court and, perhaps, prevented political chaos. The Srafel Chancellor approached Marcus, his expression a mixture of relief and curiosity. "Human," he said, "your quick action has preserved our ceremony and our princess. You have our deepest gratitude. But tell me, what was it?" Marcus carefully explained what he had discovered, choosing words that would convey the importance without causing alarm. "It appears to be an ancient device, emitting a subtle energy that affected her neural harmonics. It is not harmful if contained, but it can cause disorientation in sensitive individuals. I recommend further study before it is returned to storage." The Chancellor nodded solemnly. "Very well. You have done humanity proud, Marcus Hale. Your insight has saved more than just the princess, you have saved our honor." As calm returned to the crystal court, Marcus allowed himself a small sigh of relief. His duty was not just to protect physical safety, but to observe, analyze, and act when subtle dangers arose. Humans were often underestimated in alien courts, but Marcus knew that adaptability, curiosity, and courage were humanity's greatest strengths. Today, those strengths had proven their value. In the quiet corners of the court, whispers began to circulate. The humans had not only acted quickly, but had detected what no Srafel eyes or instruments could see. The lesson was clear. Sometimes, the smallest details, subtle pulses, faint vibrations. A careful mind could change the course of events. And sometimes, the future of interstellar diplomacy rested on the shoulders of one human guard. The Crystal Court was quieter than usual in the hours after the princess's sudden collapse. Courtiers and dignitaries lingered in hushed conversation, their voices a soft murmur echoing off the walls of translucent crystal. The twin suns outside cast long beams of light through the court, reflecting off the polished floors and creating 1,000 tiny rainbows that danced across the assembled nobles. Despite the apparent calm, tension hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Marcus Hale stood near the containment field where the ancient cube rested. He was alone, studying the device carefully. Unlike most Seraphel observers, Marcus could sense the subtle fluctuations of its energy. The cube emitted faint pulses, rhythmic and precise, yet faint enough that even the advanced instruments of the Seraphel could not fully detect them. Marcus's mind worked quickly, noting patterns. Considering how such an object could influence a living being, curious, isn't it? A voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see Lyron, a young Seraphel scholar, approaching. Her silver robes reflected the light softly, and her expression was one of curiosity mixed with caution. She had been the first to offer assistance when Marcus discovered the cube. "I have studied old devices from this palace before," she continued, "but I have never seen anything like this. How did you detect it?" Marcus shrugged modestly. Humans notice details others often overlook. Subtle energy shifts, faint vibrations. We learn to see patterns where others see nothing. This cube is sending out a small pulse. It is harmless to most, but sensitive individuals can be affected. Lyron studied him closely, tilting her head. Sensitive individuals? The princess? She didn't finish the question. The implication was obvious. Yes, Marcus said quietly. It disrupted her neural harmonics for a short period. That is why she collapsed. There was no injury, no poison, no attack. Only the pulse from this device. Lyran's eyes widened, but she remained composed. Then it is an accident, not an act of sabotage? Marcus shook his head. I can't be sure yet. This cube has been dormant for centuries. Something must have triggered it. They worked together quietly for hours, scanning the cube, observing its subtle pulses. Lyron explained that the device appeared to belong to a civilization that predated the Seraphel dominion by thousands of years. It was designed to collect ambient energy from stars and convert it into a form that could influence biological systems, possibly to aid learning, enhance focus, or improve mental connection. However, if misaligned or activated at the wrong frequency, the device could overload sensitive neural systems. Marcus listened intently. So it wasn't meant to harm, but it could accidentally harm someone. Exactly, Lyron said. It is remarkable technology, even by today's standards. But it was never designed to be reactivated without guidance. The ancients may have left it dormant for this reason. Marcus frowned. Something did not fit. How had the cube reactivated now, after so many centuries? Humans often relied on logic and observation, and Marcus's instincts told him there was more to the story. He carefully traced the energy pulse again, adjusting his sensors. The pattern seemed faintly intentional, almost as if someone or something had triggered the device remotely. Someone might have activated it, Marcus said, showing Lyron the readings. It's possible this isn't a simple accident. Lyran's expression hardened. If that is true, it could be dangerous. The cube is buried deep in our history. Few know of its existence, and fewer still would dare tamper with it. If it was intentional, the question is who would want to target the princess? Marcus rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Humans had learned to solve mysteries through observation, reasoning, and deduction. This was one of those moments. Let's not jump to conclusions, he said. First, we need to understand exactly how the device works and why it affected her. Then we can consider who might have activated it. For the next several hours, Marcus and Lyron tested the cube's energy in controlled conditions. Marcus, being human, could safely approach the device without risk, which gave them a significant advantage. The cube's pulses created subtle distortions in air, light, and energy flows. But humans were more resilient to these than the delicate Seraphel physiology as they worked. Marcus made careful notes. He observed that the cube seemed to have a natural rhythm, a pulse that mimicked a heartbeat, but with variations corresponding to ambient energy fluctuations. The cube responded differently depending on the presence of living beings nearby, particularly those with heightened neural sensitivity, like Princess Alira. "This is fascinating," Lyron said. "It adapts to life nearby. But why now? Why after centuries of dormancy?" Marcus's mind raced. Perhaps something in the palace environment changed. A new energy source, an overlooked resonance in the crystal lattice. Or perhaps it wasn't dormant at all. Maybe it has been quietly pulsing, waiting for the right conditions. Lyron nodded slowly, and those conditions appeared just as the ceremony began. The princess, standing in the center of the hall, may have triggered it simply by being there. Marcus agreed. The human mind worked differently from the Srafel mind, trained to see cause and effect in a practical sense. "We should also consider human-style investigation," he said. "Check for hidden triggers, devices, or interference nearby. Something might have activated the cube from another location, intentionally or not." Lyran's brow furrowed. "You mean someone could have done this deliberately?" "It's possible," Marcus replied. "But whether deliberate or accidental, we need to understand the mechanics first. Then we can think about who might benefit from the princess's collapse." While they continued their investigation, the court gradually resumed its ceremonial activities. Princess Alira had recovered, sitting quietly on the platform with a gentle hand resting on the arm of her throne. She appeared calm, though her eyes held a flicker of concerned understanding that something unusual had occurred. But unaware of the full danger she had narrowly avoided, Marcus kept a discreet distance. Observing her while monitoring the cube, he noticed a subtle change in her energy signature, likely a natural response to stress. Humans could detect these minor differences and interpret them as potential warnings. Marcus realized that time was critical. If the cube's pulse had reactivated once, it could do so again under similar conditions. "Lyron," Marcus said quietly, "we need to secure this device before anyone else accidentally triggers it. Even harmless pulses could cause serious problems if someone unaware interacts with it." Lyron nodded. "We should inform the Chancellor, but cautiously. He will want answers, and we do not yet have them. We must control the situation until we fully understand it, together." They moved the cube to a reinforced containment chamber, far from the main hall. The chamber was lined with dampening material designed to absorb excess energy, and Marcus installed a temporary human-designed stabilizer. The cube's pulse dimmed almost immediately, the rhythmic flicker slowing to a near stop. As they secured the device, Marcus allowed himself a small sigh of relief. Humans had a unique advantage in these situations, the ability to analyze, improvise, and act decisively under pressure. Lyron looked at him with admiration. "You humans are remarkable," she said softly. "You can see what we cannot, and act when we hesitate. The princess owes her safety to your instincts." Marcus smiled faintly. "It's not just humans. It's cooperation. Working together, we can solve problems that might seem impossible to one species alone." But even as he said this, Marcus's mind remained alert. Something about the cube's pulse suggested a deeper mystery. The energy fluctuations, though harmless now, could be a signal or a warning left behind by the ancient civilization. Perhaps it was a test, a hidden mechanism, or even a message. The human instinct for curiosity and problem-solving burned within him. This was not overdone as the sun began to set behind the twin suns. Casting long golden beams across the palace, Marcus and Lyron prepared to report their findings. The Chancellor would want answers, and the court would expect explanations. But Marcus knew that the real challenge lay ahead, discovering the origin of the cube's pulse, understanding why it had activated now, and ensuring that the princess or anyone else would never be affected again. The quiet halls of the palace seemed ordinary to those who walked them, but Marcus could sense the subtle hum beneath the crystals, the faint vibrations lingering like whispers of the past. Somewhere, hidden in the ancient architecture, the pulse waited, and Marcus, the human guard, was determined to unravel its secret for now. The immediate danger was over, but the mystery had only begun, and Marcus knew that humanity's sharp minds, brave instincts, and unique perspective would be the key to solving it. The princess had collapsed once, and the court had been shocked, but Marcus was certain it would not happen again. Not if he had anything to do with it. The palace had returned to its usual rhythm, but for Marcus Hale, nothing felt normal. The corridors, though glittering and pristine, now held hidden patterns in their reflections. Whispers of energy that humans could only sense if they focused. The crystal walls hummed faintly beneath the twin suns, a soft vibration that seemed almost alive. Marcus knew the collapse of Princess Alira had been a warning, not a random accident. Something beneath the surface, hidden, ancient, and powerful, was stirring. He walked quietly through the palace corridors, accompanied by Liron, the young Srafel scholar. She moved with the elegance of her people, but her curiosity was evident in every step. Marcus had learned to trust her instincts, while humans relied on observation and logic. Liron had intuition refined by centuries of Srafel study. Together, they formed a careful, complementary team. Marcus, Liron said softly, glancing at him. "You still feel it, don't you? The pulse?" Marcus nodded. "It's faint here, but it's there, hidden in the energy lattice of the palace. Whoever or whatever is causing it left traces. And these traces lead somewhere." She frowned. "Some say the palace itself is alive with the memories of those who built it. Ancient mechanisms and energies run beneath the surface. Most Srafel avoid these areas because, well, it is dangerous. But you humans, your species sees patterns where others see shadows." Marcus allowed himself a small, wry smile. "It's more than that. We solve problems by following clues, even invisible ones. That cube isn't ordinary, and neither is the pulse it emits. I need to find the source." They reached a side corridor, one that Marcus had not noticed before despite multiple tours. It was narrower, darker, and the crystal walls seemed older, slightly worn with time. Liron paused, whispering, "This area leads to the old archives. Few have entered it in decades." Marcus scanned the corridor with his portable sensors. The energy signature was faint, but definitely alive. It pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of a creature hiding in plain sight. "This is it," he said quietly. "The pulse is stronger below us. There must be a chamber or a system buried under the palace." Loran's eyes widened. "Some say the foundation of the Crystal Court is built over a city older than the Srafel Dominion. Those who lived here before. Their technology is mysterious, powerful, and sometimes unstable. If the pulse is from them, we must proceed carefully." Marcus nodded, adjusting his sensors. "Carefully is my specialty." They approached a large crystal panel embedded in the floor. It looked decorative, a simple geometric pattern that gleamed in the sunlight. Marcus crouched, examining it. There was a faint energy reading beneath the panel, pulsing in rhythm with the cube they had contained. "This isn't just decoration," he murmured. "This panel hides an entrance." Loran's eyes shone with excitement and fear. "We are about to enter the unknown. Human. Are you certain we should?" Marcus hesitated only a moment. "If the princess was affected once, there's a chance this pulse could cause more problems if it remains unchecked. We have to know what we're dealing with a careful touch." Marcus activated a small override device he carried for emergencies. The crystal panel slid open with a low hum, revealing a narrow spiral staircase leading downward. Dust and age suggested it had not been used in centuries. Liron followed him, stepping lightly, her robes whispering against the walls. The staircase descended into darkness, lit only by the faint glow of Marcus's portable lights. The energy pulse grew stronger as they moved downward, subtle at first, then more distinct, vibrating softly through the floor and walls. Marcus adjusted his sensors, noting the intricate patterns of resonance. "This energy, it's organized," he murmured. "Not random. Someone or something designed it to follow certain rules. It's alive in a way, but predictable if you understand the logic." Liron looked around, all written on her face. "The ancients were brilliant," she whispered, "even hidden beneath layers of stone and crystal. Their systems operate as if waiting for someone to find them." They reached a vast chamber carved into the bedrock beneath the palace. The ceiling arched high above, supported by crystal pillars that reflected Marcus's light in infinite patterns. At the center of the chamber sat a massive lattice, similar in design to the cube but far larger and more complex. Its surface shimmered, and pulses of energy flowed across its structure like liquid light. The pulse that had affected the princess now emanated from this lattice. Amplified and intertwined with the very foundation of the chamber, Marcus stepped closer, scanning the lattice. The readings were astonishing. This was not just a device. It was a network, ancient, intelligent, and deeply integrated with the palace above. It responded to presence, movement, and energy patterns. And it had been triggered somehow. Lyra and gasped softly. This is more than anyone suspected. The entire palace. It is a system, alive with energy. Perhaps it was meant to protect the city, or communicate with the future. Marcus's mind raced. The cube must be connected to this. It is a fragment, a key, or perhaps a sensor that interacts with the lattice. That explains why it affected the princess. She stood in a precise location, aligned with certain nodes of the energy grid. The cube amplified or focused the pulse at that point. He crouched near a control panel at the edge of the chamber. Strange symbols covered its symbols that even Lyron struggled to interpret. Marcus's human training with logical patterns and problem-solving allowed him to notice sequences and rhythms others might miss. The symbols are a language of energy, he said. They indicate function, not words. Each pattern corresponds to a node, a pulse, a flow. Lyron nodded slowly. You understand it? I can figure it out, Marcus said. It's like a puzzle. Once we trace the paths, we can control it or at least contain it as they worked. Marcus mapped the energy lattice with his portable scanner. Each node was connected to dozens of others, forming a network that covered the entire palace foundation. The pulse moved like water through channels, adjusting to the presence of living beings above. A sudden thought struck him. Lyron, if this system reacts to presence, then anyone walking above it could trigger pulses without realizing it. The princess may not have been alone in this. Others could be affected. Loran's eyes widened. That could explain previous faint disturbances in the court that were ignored. Perhaps they were smaller pulses, unnoticed until now. Marcus nodded. Exactly. We've been lucky that the cube focused the pulse so we could detect it. But the lattice itself, we need to study it carefully. One wrong step, and someone could collapse like the princess did or worse. Hours passed as they traced the lattice, following the energy flow from the central node outward. Marcus's sensors revealed patterns in the pulse, subtle variations that indicated the lattice could adapt. It was not just a machine, it seemed to learn, to adjust, to anticipate. The ancients had built a system that was as intelligent as it was powerful. At one point, Marcus paused, his hand hovering over a node that pulsed differently from the others. This one is unusual, he said. It seems active. Someone may have tampered with it recently. The pulse here is fresher than the rest. Lyron stepped closer, her face pale. Do you think someone is watching us? Marcus shook his head. Not watching yet, but whoever activated this lattice, even indirectly, may return. Or perhaps they are still around. We have to secure this node first. That cube was just the beginning. Together, they carefully contained the active node, creating a temporary stabilizer using Marcus's portable devices. The lattice dimmed slightly, its pulses slowing to a calm rhythm. Marcus allowed himself a small sigh of relief. That should hold it for now. But the system is still alive, and it's still connected to the palace above. Lyron looked at him with a mixture of admiration and concern. Human, you have courage and skill. But this is ancient power. Are you certain we can control it? Marcus met her gaze steadily. We don't control it. We understand it. Once we understand it, we can prevent harm and maybe even learn from it. Humans survive by observing, reasoning, and acting carefully. That's what we will do. As they ascended back to the main palace, Marcus felt a renewed sense of responsibility. The collapse of Princess Lyra had been a warning, not an accident, hidden beneath centuries of history. The palace held secrets that could change everything if ignored, and humans, with their unique perspective and quick thinking, were now the key to ensuring that the pulse never caused harm again. Above, the crystal court resumed its formalities. Princess Lyra, unaware of the depth of the danger she had faced, smiled politely at her attendants. Yet Marcus knew that beneath the glittering floors, an ancient network of energy waited, patient and alive, ready to react again if disturbed. The investigation had revealed a fragment of the truth, but the real mystery was only beginning. Somewhere in the hidden foundations of the palace, the pulse held secrets that could shape the future of the Srafel Dominion. And Marcus Hale, human guard and observer, was determined to uncover them all. The human mind, he realized, had a rare gift. It could unravel mysteries others could not even perceive. And in this palace of crystal and energy, that gift would be tested like never before. The palace was quieter than usual that evening. The crystal walls reflected the last golden rays of the twin suns, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Outside, courtiers wandered the gardens, speaking in low voices, unaware of the growing tension beneath the palace. Marcus Hale and Lyron moved through the hallways quickly but quietly, their focus entirely on the hidden lattice they had discovered. Marcus's portable sensors hummed softly, tracking the faint energy pulses that still lingered from the cube and the deeper lattice network. "The pulse is spreading again," he said, his voice low. "Even with the stabilizer in place, something is triggering it. We have little time before someone above is affected." Lyron nodded, worry clear in her eyes. The princess is already cautious. If this pulse activates while she is near a sensitive node, she could collapse again. And it may not be limited to her. Others could be harmed unknowingly. Marcus adjusted his scanner, tracing the pulse back to a section of the lattice they had not yet explored. "It's coming from below the northern wing," he said. "There's another chamber, likely another control node. This one is active, and its pattern is irregular, like someone has tampered with it." Lyran's face paled. "Tampered? But who would dare? And why?" Marcus shook his head. "That's what we need to find out. Whoever did this is either testing the system or trying to cause harm. Either way, we need to stop it now." They hurried to the northern wing, careful to avoid attracting attention. The hallways here were older, darker, and the crystals embedded in the walls flickered with a faint, unstable glow. Marcus could feel the pulse beneath his feet, subtle but growing stronger with every step. It was no longer random. It seemed to have a rhythm, a pattern almost like a heartbeat racing dot at the end of the hallway. They found a large, arched doorway covered in intricate symbols, similar to the ones they had seen in the chamber below. Marcus crouched to examine the floor. Faint energy traces led inside, invisible to the naked eye but clear through his sensors. "Someone has been here recently," he said. "These traces are fresh, no more than a few hours old." Lyron stepped closer. "It could be a spy, someone who knows about the lattice and wants to use it against the princess or the court." Marcus nodded. "Exactly. And if that is true, we are dealing with more than a malfunction. This is deliberate. Whoever did this understands the system and they could cause serious harm." They entered the chamber carefully. The air was cooler here, and the walls glimmered with an older, rougher crystal. In the center of the room stood a second lattice, smaller than the first but more intricate. Its pulses were faster, irregular, and erratic, almost as if it were alive and struggling against control. Marcus crouched to examine the node at its base. "This node is active," he said, his voice tense. "Someone has modified its energy flow. The pulse is unstable. If it reaches the main lattice, it could amplify and affect the entire palace above. People could collapse in seconds anywhere in the crystal court." Lyron gasped softly. "We must stabilize it quickly. But the mechanism is complex. Even for us, it is difficult to predict how it will react." Marcus nodded, already reaching for his tools. He connected a portable stabilizer to the node, running power calibrations and adjusting energy dampeners. Sparks of light pulsed across the lattice as it reacted to his interventions. "It's delicate," he said. "One wrong adjustment and the pulse could surge." For over an hour, Marcus worked carefully, analyzing patterns and adjusting energy flow. Lyron assisted, translating the ancient symbols and guiding him to which nodes could be altered safely. The chamber hummed with growing energy, a strange mixture of danger and beauty. It was as if the lattice itself was aware of their presence, testing their skill and patience. Suddenly, the pulse surged violently, causing the floor to vibrate beneath them. Marcus staggered slightly, gripping the stabilizer. "It's reacting," he shouted. "Someone must be sending a signal remote activation." Liran's eyes widened in alarm. Then the person who did this. They could be anywhere above ground, controlling it. Marcus's mind raced. "We need to cut off the signal and contain the pulse. If it reaches the main lattice, it could trigger another collapse in the crystal court. We don't have much time." He quickly analyzed the node, tracing energy flows with his portable device. The signal was faint but directional, originating from a hidden control relay somewhere in the northern wing. Marcus realized they were in a race. Every second counted. Liran watched him work, holding her breath. "Marcus, if you fail." Marcus shook his head. "We won't fail. Humans have a way of seeing patterns others miss. That's why I'm here. We solve problems by understanding them, not ignoring them, following the signal." Marcus guided Liran down another narrow passage beneath the chamber. The pulse grew stronger with each step, vibrating through the walls and floor. They entered a smaller control room, filled with ancient consoles, screens, and crystal interfaces. It was clear now that this was the source of the new pulse. Marcus crouched to inspect the console. Strange symbols flashed faintly, indicating active energy flows. "This is it," he said. "Someone is manipulating the node from here. But the interface is ancient. It will take precise adjustments to stabilize." Liran nodded. "Then we must work together. I can interpret the symbols. You adjust the flow." Marcus agreed, carefully connecting his stabilizer to the system. They worked in unison, adjusting energy channels, balancing pulse frequencies, and slowly calming the lattice. Sparks of light danced along the crystal walls, echoing their progress. But just as they were making headway, the pulse surged again, stronger than before, and the room vibrated violently. "Hold it steady," Marcus shouted, his hands moving quickly over the controls. "We can do this." Liran directed him, her voice steady despite the tension. "Focus on the central nodes first. Divert energy away from the main lattice." Marcus followed her guidance, adjusting the stabilizer in precise increments. The pulse responded, slowing slightly. Sparks dimmed, and the vibration lessened. But it was not enough. He could feel the danger lingering, the system still alive, still capable of sudden surges. Then he had an idea. Humans often solve problems with improvisation, thinking beyond what seemed possible. He looked at the energy flows and realized that if they synchronized the stabilizer with the lattice's natural rhythm, they could calm the pulse completely. "I can do it," Marcus said. "But I need to take a small risk. The energy might spike temporarily, but if I succeed, it will stabilize completely." Liran nodded, understanding the danger. "I will guide you through the symbols. You must trust the pulse and your instincts." Marcus took a deep breath, connecting the stabilizer fully to the lattice, and adjusted it to follow the pulse's rhythm rather than fighting it. The crystal walls hummed with energy, glowing brighter as the lattice responded. For a moment, it seemed as if the pulse might overwhelm them, but Marcus remained calm. Trusting his human intuition, gradually, the surge slowed. The lattice's erratic pulses became steady, predictable. The hum of energy softened into a gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat returning to normal. Marcus exhaled slowly. "It's working," he said. Liran smiled, relief evident on her face. "You did it. The pulse is stable." Marcus nodded, carefully disconnecting the stabilizer. "For now. But this is only a temporary solution. The system is ancient, alive, and highly adaptable. If someone discovers it, they could still manipulate it. We need to report this and create long-term protections." Together, they returned to the surface, climbing the spiral staircases with urgency. The crystal court awaited them above, unaware of the danger that had been narrowly avoided. Marcus felt a sense of quiet pride. Humans often saw the world differently, noticing patterns and solving problems others could not. Today, that perspective had prevented disaster. As they reached the main hall, Marcus observed Princess Alira. She stood quietly, conversing with her aides, unaware of how close she had come to another collapse. Marcus knew that her safety and the stability of the court depended on understanding the lattice fully. He exchanged a glance with Lyron. "We've done what we can for now, but this is far from over." Lyron nodded, her expression serious. "You are right. The lattice holds secrets we are only beginning to uncover. Whoever designed it left more than technology. They left a challenge, one that may test us all." Marcus looked around the court, filled with alien dignitaries, shimmering crystals, and the calm yet tense atmosphere. Humans had a reputation for courage, ingenuity, and curiosity. Today, they had proven it again. The pulse had been contained, the lattice stabilized. But the mystery remained. Marcus knew that this was only the beginning. Somewhere, in the depths of the palace, the ancient system held further secrets, and whoever controlled or discovered them next could change the fate of the Sci-fi Dominion forever. As the sun set behind the horizon, casting a golden glow over the crystal court, Marcus felt the familiar human determination rising within him. They had prevented a disaster today, but the real challenge lay ahead, understanding the lattice completely and ensuring it could never harm anyone again. The crystal court was alive with activity the next morning. Courtiers moved quickly between crystal pillars, advisors whispered into earpieces, and the princess held meetings with her closest aides. Despite the apparent calm, Marcus felt a deep tension lingering in the air. The pulse in the palace lattice had been stabilized, but the mystery was far from over. He stood beside Lyron, reviewing the data they had collected from the lower chambers. "The stabilizer held overnight," Marcus said, tapping his portable device. "But the pulse is not gone. The system is still active. Someone or something could manipulate it again if they discover its full potential." Lyron frowned. "We have traced all known nodes and stabilized them. What else could there be?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't know yet. There may be hidden chambers we haven't discovered." The ancients were cautious. If they built a system this powerful, they would have created safeguards and maybe traps. Lyron's eyes widened. "Traps, you mean?" "Danger," Marcus nodded. "It's possible. And if someone tries to exploit it, the consequences could be disastrous." They made their way to the palace's council hall, where the Sci-fi Chancellor had gathered senior officials. Princess Alira sat at the center, her composure intact but her eyes reflecting concern. Marcus sensed the curiosity and tension from the council. Few knew the full story of what had happened, and even fewer understood the potential danger. "Marcus Hale," the Chancellor said, his voice calm but commanding, "you have served our princess with bravery and insight. Explain to us what has occurred and why we must be cautious." Marcus nodded and stepped forward. "Your Highness, the pulse that affected the princess came from an ancient lattice beneath the palace. It is part of a system designed by the builders of this foundation. Long before the Sci-fi Dominion existed, the lattice reacts to energy, presence, and even neural patterns. It can be harmless when stable, but when disturbed, it can influence those sensitive to its pulses." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. The cube found in the palace was a fragment, a key or sensor that interacts with the lattice. It accidentally amplified the pulse when the princess stood in a precise location above. If left unchecked, the system could cause harm not just to her, but to anyone in the crystal court. Gasps echoed across the hall. Several council members leaned forward, their eyes wide. Marcus continued, "We have stabilized the nodes we found, but the lattice is extensive. There may be other nodes or chambers. The system is ancient, intelligent, and adaptable. We must study it carefully to ensure safety and prevent exploitation." Princess Alira's expression softened as she looked at Marcus. "Then it is not merely a malfunction," she said. "It is a challenge. And humans, you have the insight to perceive it where others cannot." Marcus allowed himself a faint smile. "It's not just humans. It's cooperation. Working together, we can solve problems that seem impossible to one species alone. But we must act quickly and carefully." Lyron stepped forward. "The ancients were cautious and clever. If there are hidden chambers, we can find them using the patterns in the lattice and the data Marcus collected. but we must move systematically. One wrong move could trigger another pulse. The council agreed to grant Marcus and Lyron full access to the palace archives and lower chambers. Teams of Seraphel engineers and scholars would assist them, while Marcus's human perspective provided insight into patterns and problem solving that others might overlook. They began the search beneath the palace immediately. The familiar spiral staircases led them to chambers they had not explored before. Each room was unique, filled with ancient devices, crystal matrices, and holographic projections that shimmered faintly. Marcus traced energy pulses through each chamber, his portable sensors buzzing softly as they detected subtle fluctuations. "This one is unusual," Marcus said, crouching beside a cluster of crystal nodes in a large chamber. The pulses here were faint but deliberate, moving in a complex rhythm. The ancients left instructions hidden in the lattice itself. "The pulse here is like a message, waiting for someone to decode it." Lyron examined the crystal symbols carved into the walls. "It appears to be a warning or guidance. The builders may have anticipated the dangers of this system and left instructions for future generations. Only someone observant could understand them." Marcus nodded. "Exactly. And humans notice patterns others often miss. That's why we were able to stop the initial collapse and stabilize the system. But there's more to discover. These instructions may help us secure the lattice permanently." As they progressed through the chambers, Marcus and Lyron uncovered evidence of the ancients' careful planning. Some nodes had self-stabilizing mechanisms, while others required manual adjustment. The cube had acted as a focus, linking the nodes to amplify pulses in specific locations. Without it, the lattice could still function, but was less likely to trigger large-scale effects. Hours passed as they followed the pulse trails. They discovered one chamber that seemed to serve as a central hub, of massive lattice core, embedded in the bedrock. Its surface shimmered with flowing light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Marcus felt the familiar hum beneath his feet. This was the source, the heart of the system. Lyron looked at him with awe. This is incredible. The ancients designed it to be self-regulating, yet adaptable. It is almost alive." Marcus studied the core carefully. "It is powerful, and if someone tried to manipulate it intentionally, they could create chaos. We must secure it properly, integrating stabilizers and understanding the pulse flow completely." They worked together, connecting advanced human stabilizers and adjusting the crystal nodes according to the ancient instructions. The process was delicate, requiring constant attention and precise timing. Sparks of energy danced along the lattice, illuminating the chamber in shifting patterns of color. Marcus relied on instinct, logic, and careful observation, while Lyron interpreted the symbols and guided the energy flows. Minutes felt like hours as they synchronized the lattice. At one point, the core pulsed violently, threatening to surge. Marcus held his ground, adjusting the stabilizer with precise movements. "Steady," he whispered. "We're almost there." Finally, the lattice calmed. The pulses slowed, aligning with the natural rhythm of the palace. The glow softened to a gentle shimmer, and the vibrations through the floor ceased. Marcus disconnected the stabilizer carefully, ensuring the system remained stable. "It's done," he said quietly, allowing himself a brief moment of relief. "The lattice is secure, the pulses are controlled, and the princess and the court are safe." Lyron smiled, admiration in her eyes. "You did it. You humans have a way of solving problems no one else could. You saw patterns and acted where others would hesitate." Marcus shrugged modestly. "We learned to adapt. We noticed what others miss. But this was not just me, it was cooperation. Humanity and Seraphel, working together, solved a problem that could have been disastrous." They returned to the main hall, where Princess Alira waited. Her expression was calm, but her eyes reflected deep understanding and gratitude. "Marcus," she said, her voice steady, "you have not only saved me, but the honor and safety of the Crystal Court. Your insight, courage, and patience have proven humanity's value." Marcus nodded. "I was just doing my duty. But this palace holds ancient secrets, and it will require careful study to prevent future danger. Humans can help, but so can your people. Together, we can ensure the system remains safe and beneficial." The Chancellor approached, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You have done more than protect our princess. You have shown us that humans are capable of understanding the complexities of the ancients. This is a new beginning for diplomacy, cooperation, and trust between our peoples." Princess Alira turned to the council. "Let this be a lesson. Danger can be hidden, even in places we trust. But when we combine courage, intelligence, and insight, no challenge is too great. Humanity has proven itself today. We are fortunate to have such allies." The court erupted in applause, dignitaries nodding and whispering praises. Marcus felt a quiet satisfaction. Humans had a reputation for ingenuity, for bravery, for problem-solving. Today, they had earned that respect not through force, but through careful thought, observation, and courage. In the following days, teams of humans and Srafel scholars worked together to study the lattice fully. They documented its functions, secured all nodes, and ensured that no one could accidentally or intentionally trigger the dangerous pulses again. The palace became a center of learning, where humans and Srafel shared knowledge. Blending ancient wisdom with modern understanding, Princess Alira frequently consulted with Marcus, seeking his advice on safety and energy management. Their collaboration symbolized a new era of trust and cooperation between Earth and the Srafel Dominion. The story of the collapse, the pulse, and the human guard who unraveled the mysteries spread throughout the court and beyond. Across star systems, humans were now known not as conquerors or outsiders, but as observers, problem solvers, and brave minds willing to step forward when others hesitated. Marcus had shown that humanity's greatest strength was not just technology, but the ability to see patterns, understand mysteries, and act decisively.